quickly, we'll be doing the second leg of our conversation, which has to do with Parliament and the Privileges Committee's decision on Sarah Adwoa Safo. You may recall that 3 MPs, that's Sarah Adwoa Safo, Henry Quartey, and Kennedy Ejapon, were summoned to the Privileges Committee to answer why they had been away from Parliament for more than 15 days. And for Henry Quartey and Kennedy Ejapon, we know that they appeared. The problem was getting Sarah Adwoa Safo, who is outside the country, to appear before the committee. The committee made efforts, tried to use technology to help in getting her to meet it, but it didn't happen. And so what we are learning now is that the report is supposed to be submitted to the plenary, but the chairman of the committee, who is also the deputy speaker, Joseph Osei-Wusu, has asked the clerk of parliament to declare her seat vacant. The minority is unhappy about that. We'll be having a conversation on that shortly with Samuel Obing, who is with Parliamentary Network Africa, and Inusa Fuseni, who is a former member of parliament and obviously a lawyer as well. But while we wait to get ready for that conversation, hello Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2020 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water from Casapreco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water. Text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# option 2. *780# option 2, and follow the prompt on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks and more instantly. Please don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform, and this advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions apply. Well, let's start our conversation on what's been transpiring in Parliament with regards to Adwoa Safo. We have Samuel Obing on the line. He's with Parliamentary Network Africa. Good morning to you, Samuel. And quickly, your thoughts on how this has traveled so far. We know that the Privileges Committee has tried to give Madam Adwoa Safo some time. She spoke on our network explaining why she's not in the country and said that she hadn't received any notice. The committee published in the dailies. There were adverts placed. They were just trying to reach her. But they've still not been able to reach her. Now, the latest on this is that Parliament, the chairman of Parliament's Privileges Committee says to the clerk of Parliament, declare her seat vacant. The minority says, no, you're breaching procedure. The report should come to the plenary and a decision will be taken. Your quick thoughts, sir.
Well, the Right Honourable Speaker referred this matter to the Privileges Committee and gave some very clear deadlines. Speaker says, deal with these issues, get back to plenary by the second week of when the House resumes. Parliament resumed for the second meeting in the last week of May, which means that the committee had up to about mid-June to have completed its work and submitted its report. We're in mid-July, which means that the committee is already 1 month late from the timelines it was given to present its report. That's the first point that I needed to establish. The second point is that the committee's work is cut out very clearly. Members of Parliament have absented themselves from the House. The committee is supposed to meet up with them and to have them give, like the Constitution says, or offer reasonable explanation on why, they must not vacate their seats. The committee tells us that they've been able to meet 2 out of 3, or we know it's public knowledge that they've been able to meet 2 out of 3. The natural flow of events is that if the Right Honourable Speaker makes a referral to your committee, you compile a committee's report, you submit it to plenary. Plenary looks at your committee's report and a decision is made at plenary based on your committee's report and the recommendations that the report made. So number one, I am not too sure that the first deputy speaker suggested that by the fact that the committee has met, he can direct the clerk of parliament. It doesn't happen that way. Obviously, he has to present a report, the committee's report, to plenary, and then, of course, plenary makes a decision on that particular subject matter. But yes, one of the things that I completely agree with the first deputy speaker is that some of the issues will take a very natural course, because Article 97(1)(c), which is the issue under discussion here, or the constitutional provision under discussion here, says that if you're a member of parliament, you absent yourself without permission, then you have to go to the privileges committee to give reasonable explanation. If you are unable to attend to the privileges committee to give that reasonable explanation, for me, you have no business in parliament.
But what would you say about the inability of the privileges committee to get Sarah Adwoa Safo? Now, here's the case. She belongs to the governing party. She belongs to the majority side in parliament. What is your assessment of how this has been handled in terms of even just getting her to appear before the committee?
Well, I'm not too sure I would like to describe it as the inability of the committee to get the Honorable Member of Parliament for Dome Kwabenya, Madam Adwoa Safo. I'd rather want to see it as the inability or failure of the Honorable Member of Parliament to avail herself for conversations within the committee, because the standing orders of Parliament are very clear on the processes that a parliamentary committee must use to summon anybody before the committee to respond to questions. And I think that this committee did that and even more. In fact, sometimes I wonder whether they've not set a new precedent on how they would, parliamentary committees will now have to summon people, because they went way, way, way beyond, what is known, what is regular parliamentary practice.
Sorry, yeah. The reason I said their inability, I said the context. The context is she is a member of the governing party. She is a member of the majority side in parliament. I am just thinking to myself that it should be easy that even maybe an elder in the party or a leader in parliament to get to speak to her, to agree. And that's why I use the word inability of them to get her to appear. And I'm asking that, how does this, for you, how does this paint, or what does this paint in terms of the strength of the leadership of the majority side in the House?
I agree that the natural course of events should be that people should be able to get here. It's very unfortunate, and for me it's very, very surprising. Remember that not only was she absent for more than 15 sitting days in the last session of Parliament, which is last year, which is actually the subject of the referral, but as it stands now, she has actually also been absent for 7 months straight in this new year. So to be absent for that long, to not have your party people in Parliament, your whips in Parliament, your leadership in Parliament, to get you to attend the Privileges Committee or to return to your parliamentary duties is very, very surprising to me. And I think that whereas we may want to, question how it is that whips and leadership of parliamentary groups are unable to get their members to attend to the House to answer to deal with such matters after such long absence, we also must be minded about the fact that we've heard from the group she belongs to, the caucus she belongs to, the majority in Parliament, and some of the leaders within the majority, including the whips, talk about how frustrated they are about, getting here, and how, many people even within the party structure has tried to get here. And that is why, Joy News was actually applauded a couple of weeks ago when you were able to pull her on Zoom to have a conversation. I find it to be very, very unfortunate, but at this point, I think with the information that is within the public domain, it is quite clear that, the group she belongs to had probably done their best, and it's just a matter of somebody who probably has a decision well made and knows probably the game plan that she's following.
Let me bring in Inusa Fuseni into this conversation. He joins us via phone, a former member of parliament for Tamale Central. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Fuseni. Have you ever seen anything like this pan out in parliament?
Never in my 14 years in parliament. Never have I seen such a thing. And never have I ever seen an MP behave with such a level of impunity.
So this has traveled for quite some time. We know all the drama associated with how the committee wanted to reach her and her response, and the concern that even her party has not been able to call her to just appear. Well, she appeared on the Pulse here on Joy News, and she said she had spoken to the president and she has valid reasons why she cannot be in the country. So that's on the side of her role as a minister. She is an MP and she belongs to a house which has rules and regulations and expectations of a member of parliament. How will you assess the performance of her leadership and why 7 months on, even into this year, she hasn't set her foot in parliament?
Well, it tells a lot of the leadership of the majority in parliament. I mean, Article 97.1c is very clear. Article 97.1c frowns upon delinquency. I mean, takes the representational role of a member of parliament very seriously. Article 97.1 or 97 doesn't talk about a member of parliament attending parliament and not contributing to debates or attending committee meetings. But it talks about a member of parliament vacating his or her seat if she fails to attend parliament for 15 sitting days in a meeting. That should tell you that representation or the representational function of a member of parliament is taken seriously by the constitution and by the people of this country. So a member of parliament absenting herself in the first place, even if not for 15 days, must have the permission of his caucus. The leadership of the caucus must give the permission. The permission is signified in a form that has been printed by Parliament, which is called leave of absence, where a member indicates why he or she is leaving Parliament or might not be able to attend Parliament, for which number of days, for what reason, and where that member is going, the contact address of that member, and when that member intends to return to the House.
Okay.
If the caucus, the leadership of the caucus that the member belongs, is satisfied that the reason is justified, then they approve the absence and refers the matter to the Speaker for final approval. And then the member can leave the House. But other than that, you cannot just absent yourself from Parliament for any number of days without the approval of your caucus.
Okay, so the latest on this is that the chairman of Parliament's Privileges Committee, Joseph Osei-Wusu, who is also the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, has asked the clerk to declare her seat vacant. The minority is not excited about this because, per the procedures as we know it to be, there's supposed to be a submission of a report to the plenary. But yes, and that has not happened, and they feel that the chairman of the Privileges Committee has jumped the gun.
Well, you see, first of all, when a member's conduct is a subject matter of the investigation by the Privileges Committee, the Privileges Committee submits a report to the House on their decision, their findings and decisions, which will contain recommendations as to what to be done, is to be done to a member. And that report of the Privileges Committee becomes the subject matter of debate in Parliament. Now, the Article 97.1c poses a little challenge. It starts with an emphatic declaration. A member's seat shall become vacant. A seat shall become vacant. You know, so it's mandatory. The vacancy appears to be automatic, and that if the member fails to meet the requirement in Article 97.1c. Now, but whether the explanation is reasonable or not, whatever explanation is offered by a member whose conduct is the subject matter of investigation by the Privileges Committee, the explanation and the report and the decision of the committee must be presented to Parliament. In the case of Adwoa Safo, she didn't appear, so there's no explanation. There must be a decision of the House. The House must present a report indicating attempts that they have made to get in contact with Adwoa Safo, because it is Article 71C embodies principles of natural justice, that you can't punish somebody without first listening to that person. And that's why a reasonable explanation is required. Now, and that punishment is die. It's so die. Has serious consequences for that member. I mean, the member's political career, member's life. And so, when a person fails to appear, the committee must inform Parliament the attempts they have made to get to the member. The decision, that committee, not the chairman of the committee, the decision the committee has arrived at, and the recommendation to the speaker, and that becomes the subject matter of debate in the House.
So I'm just reading a story on my Joy Online, which was published just now. No decision has been taken on Adwoa Safo's seat. That's according to ABA Fuseni. Let me just bring some details of that story and I'll take your thoughts. Member of the Privileges Committee, Al-Hassan Bashir Al-Hassan Fuseni, has refuted claims that the seat of the Dome Kwabenya MP, Adwoa Safo, is vacant. Addressing the media and Parliament, the Sanarugu MP said the assertion is an, quote, absolute pathological lie. This comment is against the backdrop of the chairman of the Privileges Committee, Joseph Osei-Wusu, stating that the Dome Kwabenya constituency seat is vacant. Now, as you've just explained, there's a problem with how it's stipulated in the law. And so if I got your explanation right, even before the Privileges Committee will come up with its report, once the person has absented themselves for more than 15 days, automatically the seat is vacant. So does Mr. ABA Fuseni have a point here?
Automatically the seat is vacant. That's prima facie. That is on the face of it. And that is why 97(1)(c) says that the person must appear before the Privileges Committee.
Okay.
That's why. So automatically the membership shall become vacant when that person absents, or if that person absents him or herself for 15 days and fails to give a reasonable explanation to the Privileges Committee. And so
in this case, so Mr. Fuseni, sorry to interject. In this case, Madam Adwoa Safo says she's explained to the President while she's away, but she hasn't given an explanation to the House. So based on what you just said, without a reasonable explanation, she's been afforded the opportunity to give an explanation. She hasn't done that. So is the chairman of the Privileges Committee wrong when he says that, no, declare her seat vacant?
No, the chairman cannot say that. The chairman is not a committee. So the chairman then gathers the committee, and the committee takes a decision. And the decision could be to declare the seat vacant or to offer her one last opportunity. And then report the decision to the House and recommend to the Speaker on what to do. Even if the decision is to declare the seat vacant, it is the Speaker of Parliament who will declare it vacant and direct the clerk to inform the Electoral Commission of the vacancy of a seat in Parliament.
And so more on that, Mr. Fuseni says, ABA Fuseni, not you, says that there's even actually no report.
Yes, so that is another matter. Because a committee, the Privileges Committee is a committee of Parliament, it's a committee of the Speaker. And so when the Speaker assigns a responsibility to the committee has to report back. Yes, I am of the view that the decision to say that the explanation is not reasonable resides with the committee, but not with the plenary. The Constitution, when you read the Constitution, where the Constitution intends to assign a responsibility to a committee of Parliament, it doesn't shy from doing so. So you see, using money from the contingency fund, the Constitution says the Finance Committee to determine that one, whether to approve of a request to use money from the contingency fund. And when the Finance Committee so determines, so be it. So in the Privileges Committee, if the Privileges Committee determines that a member's absence from Parliament is without reasonable explanation, and so the seat must be declared vacant, that is the decision. But the recommendation to the Speaker to declare the seat vacant is what can be debated and not the decision.
So finally, let me take your reaction to this call by the PNC. And its leadership is asking that this Adwoa Safo issue be approached with empathy. It's on page 11 of the Ghanaian Times. And so,
empathy?
Yes. So without sounding insensitive, Madam Adwoa Safo says her child is not well. She has to be out of the country. In fact, the statement by the PNC raises a lot of issues, including breastfeeding centers and other things that I don't want to go into this morning. But the key point is that show some empathy with this particular issue.
You see, you can show empathy, but not with impunity. You don't show empathy to impunity. When Adwoa Safo can absent herself from Parliament for more than 15 days, the Constitution doesn't say that she can't do that. But she must do that with the permission of the Speaker. And that is what the law says. That is, when you are talking about the rule of law and the respect of the fundamental rights of persons, Adwoa Safo has the right to request that she be given permission to look after her sick child. No one will deny her that. But that must be done within the ambit of the law. You can express or show empathy to a person who has violently flouted the laws of the country. You don't do that. So yes, she might be entitled to empathy, but the empathy must reside squarely within the ambit of the law. That she's followed the procedures, she's abided by the dictates of Parliament, she's requested for permission to absent herself for a number of days, she's renewed the request because the situation is still existent, and so she's within the remit of empathy. That is, we as a country, Parliament as an institution, is showing empathy towards them. But if you decide to behave with impunity, how can you say you are entitled to empathy?
Before you go, Mr. Fussaini, she says she spoke to the president, she got his permission. As a gender minister and a member of the executive. Now let's come to Parliament. She didn't speak to the Speaker of Parliament. She didn't get his permission as stipulated by law. Do you think that Parliament itself has allowed this particular guideline in its book to be abused over time, so much so that people are able to get away with things like this?
Yes, in Parliament, I know of a member of Parliament, I think in the Sikh Parliament, who has absented himself for more than a year in Parliament. So Parliament itself has allowed itself to be treated with contempt. What has brought this matter to the fore, in my view, is the fact that Parliament is now evenly divided between the ruling party and the opposition. And so every person counts, every MP counts. And so if a member of Parliament absents him or herself for a number of days, it shows, it tells, it's glaring. You can see it. And so members will act. And that is what has gotten Adwoa into this situation. So treating Parliament with contempt probably is because earlier members of Parliament had done so. But the situation is quite different. And it is Parliament, I agree, that has allowed itself to tell this way. The partisan bickering in Parliament is just totally unacceptable. And as an institution, a critical institution of state, we must show respect, enormous respect, not only to the institution of Parliament, but even to the people we represent. And if we decide to treat the people and the institution with contempt, we must be prepared to face the consequences.
Thanks for joining the program. Inusa Fuseni is former MP for Tamale Central and a lawyer. So let's end this conversation. Sami Obing is with the Parliamentary Network Africa. So Sami, what do you expect to see now? In the committee, there's a lot of back and forth. Bringing closure to this particular subject matter, what should the next move be?
Well, I expect that the committee should know that they've been given a job to do. They are 1 month late. And so this is not the time we expect them to come on radio and on television to express, disagreements on who is doing what and who is not doing what. I expect that having completed their work, as we understand it, they would make their reports ready, present it to plenary, and of course, in their reports, make the necessary recommendations on the 3 individuals who were referred to them. I expect that when they have done so, the plenary would adopt the report of the committee, and in my estimation, the committee's reports, together with what the plenary eventually adopts, would send the right signals to all members of parliament, even including future members of parliament, that you cannot take the institution of parliament for granted. You cannot take this very important duty of representation, which is what Article 97 1C is trying to protect, for granted. And it would also help to strengthen the public confidence in the institution of parliament on how it's able to crack the whip on its own. So I expect nothing less than the committee presenting its report to Parliament at the earliest possible time, because we all know that in about 2 weeks or so, the House is supposed to go on recess, and we expect that this matter will be concluded before the House, goes on the long vacation.
Would you be surprised if Adwoa Safo comes back into the country and she has easy access to her seat?
I'll be scandalized.
Grateful that you could join us this morning. Sami Obing is Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa, ending our conversation on the happenings in Parliament with regards to Sarah Adwoa Safo. Now, when we come back, we'll be having a conversation with the CIIG and also their CIIG Insurance Award. That's the Chartered Insurance Institute Excellence Award. And it's slated for the 23rd of July 2022 at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Do stay. I'll be having that conversation shortly with some reps from the CIIG. But before I go, I have a quick message for you, as I do always, to give you some tips on tax. Now, a voluntary applicant shall be registered as a taxable person where the Commissioner General is satisfied that the person has a fixed place of abode or business, or reasonably believes that the person keeps proper accounting records related to any business activity carried on by that person, submits regular and reliable tax returns, or reasonably believes that the person is fit and proper to be registered. Do stay. We'll be back with more.
You ought to have come to